I can't believe I defended her when Obese called her out. Clearly, he saw it well before we all did. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today, we have a little bit of an interesting update about a video I made quite a while ago. So today we are going to be talking about Amy in Half, who, if you are not familiar, Amy kind of got her claim to fame, or the start of her popularity was when she was featured on Oprah's, like this was a big deal when it came out. It was like this whole special about GLP-1s and Ozempic, and it was this huge deal when it first came out. And this was when GLP-1s were first kind of coming into the mainstream. And this special was a huge deal, right? And she was featured on it, and that kind of put her in the public spotlight.
For many users of the medications, with a new body comes an entirely new outlook on life.
I have been struggling with my weight for as long as I can possibly remember. I mean, I remember feeling like my relationship with food was different than for a lot of people, starting at the age of 5 years old, 10 years old.
For Amy Kane, navigating her weight loss has been a lifelong problem. The full-time mom grappling with the constant shame and anxiety she felt over her appearance.
I would say my highest number was probably around 300 pounds. I didn't look at myself in the mirror very often. I didn't step on the scale because I didn't want to know.
So in light of that, Amy kind of really started, getting popular on social media, and she was making a lot of posts about being on GLP-1s, being on Ozempic, being on these medications that helped her lose weight, which all in itself is, no problem. That's completely fine. But I felt myself that some of the posts that she was making, as well as, for lack of a better term, the size of her body was starting to become concerning. But more than, the size of her body, it was definitely the types of posts that were being made and the things that were being said. And so I made a video critiquing that stuff and talking about what Amy had been saying in her videos. And when I made that video, obviously most people were understanding of where I was coming from. The comments on the video that I made, people seemed to understand where I was coming from. On social media, people seemed to understand where I was coming from. But Amy actually made a response that I never ended up talking about or responding to because it just felt kind of pointless. She was very upset at me and was very mad that I had made this post, but she ended up really focusing on the fact that I had kind of talked a little bit about how thin her legs were, right? Because that was something that she would feature quite a bit, was her legs, right? They're very thin. She doesn't seem to hold much fat in her legs, so they're very slender. And she was very upset with me. Now, when this happened, it was a very interesting time because she made a TikTok that she also reposted on Reels, right, on Instagram. And the response was very different on Instagram versus on TikTok. So on TikTok, people were unbelievably upset with me. And I just basically didn't use TikTok for a few weeks because every single time I would open the app, it was just message, comment, people saying that I'm terrible, whatever. Which is fine. I understand that the videos that I make, that's going to happen, right? Like, I can't be upset with people being critical of me because that's kind of what I do on this channel, right? It is what it is. But the response to that post on TikTok versus the response to that post on Instagram was so unbelievably different. Because when I went to the post on Instagram, because I was getting tagged, and I actually use Instagram a lot more than TikTok, it was a lot of people being supportive of my video and saying that I don't feel that John said anything wrong. And it was like people that didn't even know who I was, right? So I just thought it was very interesting seeing the difference in social media and how people perceived that original video. But the reason that we're talking about this today is not because of the stuff that happened in the past. That is what it is. But there have been more posts that have just been getting posted by Amy over the past few months since I made that first video. And they have been getting, in my opinion, more and more just over the top and ridiculous. And this is like the cherry on top. People that were very upset with me about my original video have come out to basically be like, John was right. And I just thought that was very interesting, and it felt a little vindicating having people that were critical of my original video be like, you know what, maybe John was right. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. One thing that I do want to make very clear is that I am not someone that is anti-GLP-1 medications. If someone needs to take it or it's very helpful for them, that's fine. Even if you want to talk about it on social media, that's fine. I think that there is a very big difference between talking about your journey that just so happens to be using a GLP-1 versus what I feel Amy does, which is overhype these medications and promote them in a way that I feel is 1, disingenuous, 2, dangerous, and 3, just a little icky is the best way to put it. There is just the way that she talks about it and the way that she talks about her weight loss, I do feel is just, for lack of a better term, it's just strange. Like if you go to her page, I'm not going to be going over a ton of her TikToks just because she posts a lot and I don't think that it's necessary, but there is one in particular that has caused a lot of backlash. A lot of people actually sent this post to me. A lot of people that you wouldn't even think would be sending this post to me were sending this post to me. And they're like, man, I don't even, like, I used to be a fan of hers, but like it's gotten to a point where I can't even defend this. And that is the main post that we're going to be focusing on right now. So that post that we're going to be talking about is this one right here. Obviously there's audio that we're not going to be playing. And then she goes on to say, is there any better feeling than feeling small? Right. And so it's hard to really explain, like, if you haven't watched a lot of her content, but this is almost 80%, if not more, of her content is her, what a lot of people say is body checking, her just saying, oh my God, my life is so much better because I am skinny, or because I am tiny, because I am small. And that's one thing she talks about so much. And her response usually to that is, well, my life was worse when I was bigger, and I'm just being honest about the fact that society treats me better because I have lost weight. And while that can absolutely be true, right? Like you can absolutely be treated better because of, society treating you better when you lose weight. Like I would be a liar if I said that I didn't get, more attention, better attention from, the opposite sex and stuff like that in general after losing a lot of weight. Of course, like my life has improved in certain ways, but it's the way that she goes about things and the way that she explains it, and especially like the kind of like the body checking that she does, that people have started to really be like, this is just weird. Again, because so much of her content is just this. It's just saying, my life is better because I'm skinny. I'm skinny now. My life is better. I'm so small. Oh my God, I'm tiny. Look how tiny I am. Look how small I am. I'm so small. I'm so small. And I think a lot of people are starting to be like, okay, it's great that you have lost weight, but it doesn't feel like you are healthy, right? Like a lot of people are saying it feels like the health is something that has been kind of, it's not really ever brought up. They're like, what are you working out at all? Is there anything else that you are doing that is, improving the quality of your life other than just I'm skinny now, right? And I'm taking this medication to stay skinny, because that's what a lot of people are saying, right? And so if we look at the comments, right, top comment right here, 1,500 likes, right? Feeling smart, feeling loved, feeling healthy, feeling strong, feeling intelligent, feeling content. I like your content, but this one really bothers me. And that's something that you see a lot now is a lot of people are like, I used to really like your stuff, and now it's starting to make me uncomfortable. It's really starting to feel very strange, right? And then this comment right here, actually, yes, feeling properly fueled and strong. Super happy for your journey, but this one should have probably stayed in the dress. I agree that this is very ED coded, right? So that's what a lot of people are saying as well, is that it feels like the content has gone from, someone that is excited about losing weight to someone that is promoting being as tiny as possible and just reveling in the fact that they are super duper small. And a lot of people are saying it feels like you are promoting this in an unhealthy way. And one of those people is this person. I have blocked out their name just because I didn't really want to, I don't know. I didn't really want to dox them or anything like that. I don't know if they would want to be in this video. But there was this dietitian that was very, very upset with me in my first video. They actually sent me a couple DMs about how terrible my video was and just how, it was wrong. And, I can't believe you did that. It was so rude, whatever. I don't remember exactly what they said. Right. And they actually came out and posted this on their story, which this was like my first notification when I woke up was this. So I was just like, whoa, what the heck is happening? So again, this is their handle that I blocked out, but it says, I can't believe I defended her when Obese called her out. Clearly he saw it well before we all did. And again, I mean, it just feels very vindicating hearing that from someone that was very upset with me in my initial video to come out and say, you know what, like maybe I was wrong for defending this person. And again, they made a reel kind of, they stitched her original reel and said that, there's a bunch of other things that are better than feeling small. And Amy actually had left a comment on that, and, she wasn't very happy with the dietitian that ended up making the reel kind of responding to her. And then just for example, this is kind of some of the other posts, right? And so this is you need to have protein for every meal when you're on Ozempic, or you need to eat like a normal human being for the first time. And it shows her eating this stuff. And another thing that a lot of people will criticize her for is just the types of foods that she shows herself eating. A lot of times it's kind of quote unquote like junk food, right? Obviously there's fruits and vegetables here, but she's eating a croissant and talking about how, you shouldn't have to eat protein every meal when you're on Ozempic. It's just strange because while, you don't have to have protein for every meal, but for most people with a well-balanced nutrition, protein is something that you should focus on, especially if you are losing weight, and especially with Amy and anyone really, when you're losing weight at a very quick pace, making sure that you're eating protein is very, very helpful. And it's just a good idea to do that. And so much of her content is like clapping back at what people are saying. But in my opinion, a lot of times it really misses the mark because the focus is just clapping back on what other people are saying instead of let me promote healthy routines and healthy behaviors. The focus is not that. It's about clapping back and making people, trying to own people. That seems to be the focus on so much of our content. Another common criticism that I see, which I feel is very much so warranted, is that Amy is a big promoter of Fridays, which is one of those companies we've talked about in a video where they basically are, in my opinion, kind of like a pill mill, just obviously not pills, for GLP-1 medications. They make it very easy and affordable for people to get these medications, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. But the way, in my opinion, that they do the marketing is wrong. They have plenty of people that sit on TikTok live for hours and hours and hours that are influencers that sit there and just sell the medication to people all day long. Or, they don't sell the medication, but they, give people the link to go and buy the medication and they get a percentage of each sale. It's very strange. And the biggest thing is that Amy, from my knowledge, did not use Fridays and does not use Fridays to get her medication. Maybe she does now, but she certainly wasn't using it at the start because it didn't exist when she started, I assume. And so it just feels weird. It feels weird. It feels predatory. It feels scammy. I'm sure it's not a scam. I'm sure you actually get your medications, right? But it feels off. And so this is I think one of our most recent reels, TikToks, whatever you want to call it, promoting this company. So let's listen.
Yeah, I went from this to this in 14 months. I'm going to talk about how that happened.
So first off, I personally don't love the framing of I did this in this amount of time. And that was something that, I don't know. I used to talk about how long it took me to lose weight. But I was also like 21 years old, when I was first making my Instagram profile, and I was young, and I thought that the faster you did it, the better that meant that it was, the more valuable it was. The more I've been doing this, I've had the weight off for 12 years now. I'm getting old. The amount of time that it takes you to lose weight doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Like, it might matter in the moment. It might feel like it matters. But in reality, it doesn't. It just doesn't matter because the goal is to keep that weight off. And a lot of times when people are really promoting how you can do it really quick, their goal for you is not to, have you keep the weight off. The goal for them is to get, to have a crazy transformation that they can post on their social medias. I'm not saying that Amy is using other people's transformations, obviously, but that's something that I noticed a lot, right? That people they really want to promote these fast transformations because usually it makes them look good. And so when it's just always a red flag. When you see someone promoting how fast they can get you to lose weight, I almost always tell people, you don't always have to avoid it, but just be very careful with that.
You're thinking about getting on a GLP-1 medication? Let's chat. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you about my experience. How being on a GLP-1 medication changed my life, and I know it's not easily accessible. Your doctor won't prescribe it. Insurance stinks.
So while, yes, it would be nice if GLP-1s were more accessible to more people. I mean, we're at a point now where it feels like anyone that wants a GLP-1 medication can get it, right? And I feel like while there are pros to that, there are also cons where I do feel that people, in my opinion, again, are overusing them, and they are using them for reasons that they were not intended to be used for. You know, people are like, I just want to lose 15, 20 pounds before my wedding, or whatever it is, right? That's not the way that these were intended to be used. And then a lot of people are saying that people are using them to, you know, basically have an ED, right? To help them, aid them in their, you know, disordered ways of eating. And that is a problem. And that is something that these, you know, these companies like Fridays and these other places, the amount of vetting they do to the people that are getting these medications is very low. And that's basically what she's saying here without exactly saying it. This is the easiest way to get it without, you know, having to answer a bunch of questions, and you can just get it, right? And again, it'd be one thing if it was just some random product that someone was selling on TikTok Live or whatever, but these are medications that people are just selling, right? And then you see here, code is Amy in half. The reason that code is there is so it can be tracked back to her and she can get a percentage of the sale. Again, that's weird when it comes to a medication, right? We're talking about a drug here.
Can't find it readily available. There are some obstacles that make it hard to get on a GLP-1 medication. I recommend Fridays wholeheartedly. Fridays makes it easy, no jumping through hoops. They price it right. You get all the support you need, and the medication gets dropped right to your front door. Check out Fridays, because being on a GLP-1 medication has completely transformed my life.
So, and then if you look at the top comments, right? Please consult your physician before you take this. She is getting commission to promote this. There's a reason why there are obstacles. And then I have a question. Are you on Ozempic or Mounjaro? I only ask because I'm on Ozempic and really don't really find it's worsening. My pharmacist recommended Mounjaro. One more question. How high of a dose are you on? Because I wonder if that's my problem. Like, again, it's just so many people asking questions to just influencers that, in my opinion, should be asked to someone that's a little bit more qualified, right? It's just, I don't know. It's just crazy, right? And then, like, again, this one right here. As much as I love you and I know you have to make an income, I think it's very unethical to promote a company who you do not use to get your medication. How do you even know if their compounded medication is quality if you don't use it and have been on Mounjaro this whole time? This company does not even offer Mounjaro, right? And so these are her supporters, people that like her, that are feeling that they are being misled by this. But again, who cares, right? I'm getting the commission for these sales, and that's what matters. And that, in my opinion, is the most nefarious thing about, I don't want to just say about Amy, but just the fact that there are so many people that are what I call GLP-1 influencers, right? Mounjaro influencers, Ozempic influencers, that they are making a huge portion of their income basically, right, selling these medications to their followers. And the most important way that they do that is by selling a dream, by selling a life, right? And that's what Amy does so much, right? And other people like this. They sell this, take this medication and, oh my God, my life is so much better. Everything is better. My life is rainbows and butterflies now that I started taking this medication, and you know that it'll do the same for you, without talking about the negative side effects, without talking, like, there are so many things that you have to be aware of when you are taking these medications. And I just find it to be wrong to promote the stuff, especially the fact that these people are making money off of the sales of these medications. But I just wanted to share that. I'm sure if Amy ends up watching this video, she will be upset. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but I do feel that, you know, this is something that needs to be talked about, and it's definitely something that needs to, in my opinion, change, and there needs to be some more regulations to this stuff, because I do feel that it is dangerous, especially just how the fact that we are just like promoting this and saying, oh, everything's good and my life is so much better and there's no negative side effects to this. I think that that's wrong. But again, that's just my opinion. I would love to know what you think down in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.